So now that you've seen the big picture of reactive programming and got a little overview of some of the mechanisms like RxJava and Project Reactor, let's start diving into the key classes that you'll need to be able to master in order to be successful in assignment number 4 that come out of the RxJava API. And so we'll talk about the key abstractions there. There's something called flowable and observable, and there's something called a single. There's other things too, but these are the ones we're going to focus on. So there are 3 key classes in the RxJava API that we will cover. There's some other ones, but they're much simpler variants of this stuff. The first one is something called a single. And as the name implies, it completes successfully or with failure and may or may not emit a single value. And so you can basically think of a single as something akin to a Java completable future or an async optional. A Java completable future is probably the best analogy for this. And if you are comfortable with completable futures, you should have no problem picking up singles when we talk about those. All of these abstractions with reactive programming are documented by something with a curious name called a marble diagram. And you'll see in a second why it's called a marble diagram, because there's all these different colored things that look kind of like marbles. And you can read about how to understand marble diagrams at the link at the bottom of the page. So a marble diagram contains a timeline, and this one is showing singles, where time flows from left to right. So you look at this diagram and you can see that there's going to be something happening where the green circle lives. And this is the optional item that's omitted by the single. So the single is going to omit this item, maybe, optionally. And then this dotted line, this arrow with a dotted line pointing to this rectangle, this box, indicates that a transformation is being applied to the single. And you see there's a whole slew of different transformations, which we'll talk about, like do on success and map and so on. The text inside the box indicates the type of transformation. Right now, it just says operator, which isn't very specific, but you'll see that there's all these different types of operations that you can apply. And then what we have as a result is the outcome or the result of the transformation. So if we do on success, or if we map something, or we flat map something and so on, there'll be a change, potentially a change that happens as a result of that. The vertical line indicates that everything was hunky-dory and it completed successfully. And if something goes wrong, then there's an X, and that indicates what happens when an error or a failure occurs. So this is trying to convey the semantics of these operations visually. Sometimes it's very effective. Sometimes it's even more confusing, but it's better than not having any visualization at all. And as you know by now, having watched lots of other videos in my class, I'm a big fan of attempting to visualize semantics. We saw that with Java streams. We saw that with Java parallel streams. We saw that a little bit with the completable futures framework and so on. I just feel that gives you a better kind of right brain gestalt to see what's going on. So that's a single. Then there's also something called an observable, which can be used to emit an indefinite number of events, which could be 0, could be n, could be infinite, which may complete successfully, or there could be a failure. And this is a bit like an async Java stream. So it's kind of like combining Java streams, Java sequential streams, with completable futures. Not identical, but if you think about it like that, it kind of puts you in the right frame of mind. And we'll take a whole look at a bunch of examples, and you can see that there's operations like from callable, subscribe on, flat map, and so on. We can also document observables with marble diagrams, except they typically have multiple marbles. They haven't lost their marbles. And there's a reason for having multiple marbles, as we'll see. There's a timeline of the observable where time flows from left to right, and the different colored marbles correspond to the items that are being emitted by the observable. So think of them as basically elements or data or values or objects that we've been thinking about in the context of Java streams. Once again, we have a dotted line and we have a little rectangular box that indicates the transformation that's being applied, like, again, map or flat map and so on. And the text, something more specific than operator, will indicate what the transformation is going to be doing. And then you have the results of the transformation. If everything goes well, you have a vertical line. And if something fails, there's an X. So that, again, is a way to think kind of semantically and visually about the different operations. And we will look at lots and lots of these things as we go through the examples. Then the third key class that's part of the reactive RxJava API is the flowable. And that's basically an observable plus plus. It's an observable that also supports this concept known as back pressure. And what back pressure allows is it allows the subscriber to tell the publisher, hey, you're sending data too fast. I can't keep up. And so what'll happen then is it'll go ahead and have the publisher kind of throttle back and not produce the data as quickly. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of the key classes. The ones that are most important for you to understand are single and observable, because those are the ones you're going to need in order to be able to successfully complete assignment number 4.